Spaghetti-O. Look like we got some drama going on between content creators. And I want to cover this story. So the next couple of videos is going to be this story because y'all been hitting me up. Y'all been hitting me up with the DMs. And shout out to everybody who's hitting me up in the DM. They're like, yo, what the Dirk is getting exposed. I'm like, huh? What's going on? So apparently, the company man made a video about what's the Dirk Family Matters, trying to point out, some of the things that people are saying. A lot of people are not liking his intake or his output or his thoughts on Family Matters because it just seems like he was trying to push an agenda instead of just sticking to the actual lyrics of the words. And it was just, I made a whole video about it. Y'all should know how I feel about it. If you haven't, go check out my other videos. But I'm going to go in sequence, right? Because there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 videos, right? So this is the first one, the company man, and I'm going to react to this. And then so the company man made a reaction to what the Dirk's family matters. Then what the Dirk did a reaction to his reaction. And then the company made a reaction to this reaction. And then what the Dirk just apologized. All right. So be expecting 4 videos coming up. OK, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 videos to react to because I want to cover this. All right. So let's start from the beginning and let's see what made what the Dirk say what he say. All right. So my next video is going to be this reaction of what the Dirk reacted to this video. So let's see where all this beef started from.
And I spend a lot of time in the breakdown space. I think most of you probably know me because of the breakdowns that I've done for years on this channel and other channels. And
shout out to the company man. Y'all go check them out.
To this day, I'm always shocked when people in the comments say, like the analysts, people who now
fast forward this part.
Most about that is Matt, what's the Dirk, continues to make a point that in 10, 15 years from now, he wants to be the go-to guy. He wants to be the guy that has the best coverage of this battle. And probably any coverage of any battle or beef that he makes videos about. Probably so. I'm willing to say that, right? And this is where I run into a sincere problem with this breakdown. Because compared to the other breakdowns, there are things that Matt just isn't in the position to properly contextualize.
And a lot of people feel that way. There's certain things that you shouldn't talk about, There's some things that, yeah, you can give your opinion, but when you're trying to when you're talking about black issues, you might want to stay out that conversation because you're going to rub people off. People are not going to like it. Yeah, so it was just, this is just a teachable moment. What the Dirk, give your opinion, but don't try to justify, well, this is very clever that, Drake is trying to say that he's black by saying the N-word 37. Like, bro, shut up. Just leave that. Oh, yeah, that's very clever. Shut up.
He's not in the position to be accurate about certain things. And his earnest efforts to be objective, he states a lot of opinions as if they are fact. Mm-hmm. A lot of his takes are very myopic, very narrow.
Ooh, that's a big word.
And he frames things as if there are only 2 options or no options. This is what it has to be. And he's not necessarily doing that while trying to understand Drake's lyrics. He's taking his interpretation of these situations and stating them as fact.
And that's what I was saying in my video. I said, it just seems like you're pushing a narrative. And he sounded like academics. He sounded just like academics. When I was listening to him, I'm like, yo, this is the same stuff academics be talking about. So he sounds just like academics. And we know academics is a spin master. And he loved to push propaganda narratives. And that's why Kendrick Lamar put him in the bar.
Here's an example that I'm talking about.
Drake starts off the track with a direct rebuttal to Kendrick's claims on Euphoria when Kendrick clowned him for his use of the N-word. Drake strategically trolls Kendrick by getting his own mother to start off the track, requesting that Drake not use the word.
Maybe in this song, you shouldn't start by saying...
It's pretty clever because his mother probably doesn't approve of him using this word either.
He said it's pretty clever.
Yeah, bro. Some things you shouldn't just talk about, man. If you're not a part of this culture, yeah, you can talk about hip hop, but some things you should just leave alone.
She probably asked him many times over the years not to use it, but she ultimately couldn't do anything about it because Drake is half black. The other side of his family uses it. So she had really zero.
Drake is half black. The other side of his family uses it. I have a fundamental rebuttal to that. You notice how he said his mom probably didn't want him to use it. Probably for the mom. Let's listen to this one more time.
It's pretty clever because his mother probably doesn't approve of him using this word either. She probably asked him many times over the years not to use it. But
how would you know that? Like, see, when you saying all this probably, this is your breakdowns are not supposed to be probably. When you did the Kendrick Lamar breakdowns, you stuck to, this is that, and this. Stick to the facts. Don't give your opinion. That's where you fucking up.
But she ultimately couldn't do anything about it because Drake is half black. The other side of his family uses it.
The other side of his family uses it. Okay, again, when I was talking about how I didn't realize middle schoolers and high schoolers were my primary audience, it still trips me out. I had no idea. I'm writing to compete with, Rachel Maddow. And all of a sudden, there's a whole nother demographic I'm not even considering. His goal is to have the best, most accurate coverage, the deepest dives into this. And these nuances, particularly in this battle, are extremely important. He gave probably to his mom and said clearly his dad side of the family uses it. My family growing up didn't use the N-word. I made a whole video on my channel called just say no to the N-word. I didn't say the N-word for 20 years. And then like 3-4 years ago, I was like,
is that how does What the Dirt know what Drake dad says? Drake dad might not use the N-word. Just because he black don't mean it's like, stop What the Dirt. You got to stop that. Do your breakdowns. Nothing. Your breakdown wasn't bad. Like, he had good points, but certain things you just like, bro, what are you talking about?
I feel like saying nigga again. I understand the power of that word, and not necessarily to just people of other communities and cultures, but amongst black people. I noticed the craziest part to me when I stopped saying nigga was that when I stopped saying it around black people, when black people around me over a longer period of time, or the more often they're around me over protracted periods of times, I stopped hearing it as much too. It's infectious, it's contagious, but it's not a word that every black family uses. It's not a word that's accepted in the household. It wasn't accepted in my household.
Facts.
I didn't start saying it to like middle school or high school in the first place.
There's a lot of people, a lot of families that do not like their children saying the N-word. Now, if you say it outside the house or whatever, but there's been plenty of times, where, especially when you're a kid, and you say nigga. Parents don't like that. Well, I don't know about the parents of these days, but when I grew up and you said nigga in front of adults and you're a child, they would tell you, don't say that word. Right now, if we say that when we with their friends, it's a different things. But just to say that every black family says that is not true. What the Dirt. So this is a teachable moment. All right. you just stick to your breakdowns. Don't try to define the black culture. Don't do that.
Being around other people. Not every family uses that word.
Facts.
It's subtle distinctions like this that resonate loudly for the context of this battle, because it is a culture conversation that's happening. It's a culture conversation that's happening. Mm-hmm. This is small. Let's watch where he goes.
So she had really zero say in the matter. So he's pretty much saying, like, my own mom couldn't stop me. You're definitely not going to. And what's also...
Right. And so now he described all of this as clever, right? Which I also find to be a position that is very maybe looked at differently in other cultures, because in the culture that he's describing, i.e. Drake's father's side, it's not clever to disrespect your mom at the beginning of anything. It's not clever. It's not clever. Now, maybe he's talking about who Drake is talking to, and maybe Drake's talking to his audience, and maybe his audience is a different population of people. But that doesn't resonate with black people.
I agree with that.
I don't think that resonates with any kind of black people.
I agree with that.
But he's defining this as clever. And again, I'm still shocked every day that middle schoolers and high schoolers are the ones who are most impacted, or at least tell me on a regular basis, by the work I was doing however many years ago. He gives a probably for what his mom might think. He says definitely his family uses that word. He describes it as clever that he disrespects his mom at the beginning. And none of this context is actually true to the point that he's arguing in this battle.
Exactly. He's given his opinion as a fact. That's what you got to stop doing. Don't say probably. And this is, look, What the Dirt. Just take this as a teachable moment, and you can learn from this. If you're going to do breakdowns, you cannot do what I do, whatever. Like, I'm a reactor. I'm not trying to break down. That's not what my channel is about. I'm giving my POV. Everybody know it's my point of view. Not saying that my opinion is facts or whatever, But I'm just giving my point of view. But what you do is something different. Your lane is sticking to the facts, breaking down lyrics, putting the pieces together. You got to stick to the facts. If you just want to give your opinion about the battle, then you got to create another channel or something. But that channel that you have with the dirt, you can't do that. You got to stick to the facts, and definitely don't try to prove a point about white and black. Like, that's just leave that alone, man. Leave it alone. So hopefully you learn from this moment.
It's not true. It's not certain. So he's presenting things as if they're certain, but it's not certain.
Exactly.
Now check this part out.
He uses it, so she had really zero say in the matter. So he's pretty much saying, like, my own mom couldn't stop me. You're definitely not going to. And what's also really clever here is that Drake is 37 years old, and he says the N-word 37 times on this track. I believe his reasons for doing this is he's basically saying the word for every year that he's been alive to symbolize that he was indeed born black.
Man, come on. This is when reaching goes bad. This is when reaching goes bad. Like, that's something that you don't need to point out. That's something that you don't need to point out and you need to justify. You? No. Somebody else? Cool. Me? Yeah, I can do that. You? No. If I want to say that, but you? No. Some things you just don't do. But it's just like the reach is insane. Fantastic Four type of reach. Incredible Armstrong reach. Like, yeah.
Now, I talked about, actually, I don't even know if I really talked about this. I definitely retweeted this moment when I saw this yesterday. I honestly, after I saw this, I almost tuned out to I almost like, I had to call Curtis King. I called Curtis King. I'm like, yo, Curtis, did you know that Drake says nigga 37 times to symbolize he's been a nigga for 37 years? Like, it was crazy. Curtis will tell you. And this has got to be one of the most,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe.
Yeah,
I don't even know how to describe what this is.
It's bad.
I don't know what to describe this as.
It's
because
bad.
From my point of view, this doesn't work on no matter how you look at it.
It's bad.
What's the Dirt described this as clever?
It's bad.
He described it as clever. All right, so let's say What's the Dirt is actually correct. Let's imagine that What's the Dirt nailed this. Maybe let's say that this is his 616 moment where he's saying Kendrick is rapping from Drake's perspective. Let's say he is correct about that, the way he was with the 616 moment. Let's say that's the case. Then that would mean Drake sat down, consciously thought out the number of niggas to include in his song, landed on 37 because of his age, and said, yeah, that's deep, that's dope. That'll show him how much of a nigga I am. That'll show how black I am.
That's even worse on Drake's end, like proving that you black by saying 37 niggas because that's how old you are. That's to prove that you're black. Like, either way you try to dissect this, it's bad. Like, what? That's how you prove that you black, by saying niggas 37 times. So even if Drake did that and that's true, that's bad on Drake. Drake looked like a damn fool trying to establish his black culture by saying nigga 37 times in a rap song because he's 37. That's stupid. It's dumb. So either way you try to slice this pie, it's trash.
Let's say that. Now, you guys know where I stand on Drake. I find that hard to believe Drake would do that. But let's say Matt's correct. That's what that would mean. It would mean that Drake is literally quantifying the number of N-words per song to prove his blackness.
That's dumb.
That's the whitest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Facts.
There's nothing whiter than that.
Exactly.
If Drake is doing that, let's say that is like an entendre, a layer. That is crazy. It's not clever. It would be additional demise and another example of this song aging so.
Wait. Do you want to know what's another white moment of Drake? Drake interview. And I always point this out. Another point that Drake, hold on. I'm going to find it on the back end because y'all know what I'm about to play. I'm about to play when Drake said, some of my blackest friends. I'm like, what? Black people don't talk like that. White people talk like that. So is this, if that's true, that Drake is trying to define and trying to convince people that he's black by saying nigga 37 times, is that the same moment when he says,
and sometimes I do feel like,
yeah, here it is.
Sometimes I do feel like if, sometimes I don't feel celebrated when I know maybe somebody else would be celebrated for those accomplishments. You know, I don't feel like people say when the other side of things, which is like, yo, sometimes like, you know, some of like my blackest friends can be just as cruel on the other end.
Yo, that's the wildest thing I've ever heard from Drake. And Drake said some stupid stuff. But for Drake, if Drake really thought that he was a black man, he wouldn't say my blackest friends, huh? That's the whitest thing anyone could say. That's the whitest thing a white person could say. Well, some of my blackest friends, black people don't, what? Huh? Jigga what? Jigga who?
I obviously understand the times that we're living in and how serious it is and how divided we all are across the world, you know, with this, you know, with the person that's currently in that position and, you know, having that energy trickle on down. But that line is just me speaking to the other side of things, which is like, yo, sometimes like, you know, some of like my blackest friends can be just as cruel on the other end.
My blackest friends can be cruel. That's diabolical. So I agree. And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, Drake might have done that just to prove how black he is. And if he did, that's definitely a white moment. That's the whitest thing that you can say. So come to think about it, he probably did that on purpose, you know.
Of this song aging so poorly. That's crazy. Now, let's go the other way. Let's say Matt is straight up reaching. Let's say this is the biggest reach or example of reaching, an example of what Be Fresh, Whitney's cousin, was saying to Curtis King. Let's say this is an example of at-home analyzers sitting back and coming up with meanings and things for songs. Let's say this is an example of that because no conscious person, no non-schizophrenic person is going to sit around and make sure they include the number of niggas in a song to prove they're black. Let's say this is the biggest reach ever. Then that means Matt is so in the weeds, so in the woods, not even in this video, but in the whole process, that he's counting the number of niggas in a song.
That's crazy.
I was disturbed by this.
How do you even think of that? Nobody even thought of that. Like, how did that even come to? Like, how did he reach that? He said, "Well, let me count the." Where did that come from? How did you even get? Like, how did he even think of that? That's crazy.
On both sides. Like, you know, let's say Drake really did that. That's crazy. And let's say Matt, you know, really counted this, pointed this out. Let's say Matt's correct, and that's what it was. That's crazy to even find that.
Both are crazy.
Because all of that makes Kendrick's whole point.
Exactly.
No matter how you look at it. If Drake did it or didn't do it, if Matt's reaching or not reaching, that is Kendrick's point.
Exactly.
And that point isn't made in this video. And I'm guessing most of the people who are watching Matt's stuff are middle schoolers and high schoolers, and they're going to grow with this video thinking this is a fact of this battle, or that this fact of this battle is clever. I should do it too. Like, this is the problem people have with people far away from the action watching stuff happen online. This is a myopic view that is narrow for the past minute and a half. All these clips, all these things I just talked about right here, that are narrow, very difficult to prove if you don't talk to somebody, which I talked about in the Matt's misstep video. But it's an example of how Matt's worldview creeps into his interpretation of what's happening and how he presents them, or at least in this case, I'll use this. There's a couple more in here. I don't want to make a whole point about that because I do think there's some good things in this video, mostly around his analysis of the visual, in my opinion. But his goal is to be the guy who has the definitive videos around this battle. And this video, this 2 hours and 30-minute video,
long,
is going to resonate. That's gotten 204,000 views in a day. Is going to resonate with, in my opinion, largely young people who are trying to learn about this. And they're going to come away with, yo, sometimes when people say, sometimes you need to count the number of niggas because it might mean something. That is a problem to me.
Yeah,
that is a problem to me. And a lot of times too, because I've done a lot of breakdowns, and a lot of times you find yourself in these rabbit holes when you're doing research. You find yourself in these rabbit holes, and you're like, oh man, but this, right? All of a sudden you're doing 3D chess and all this stuff. But then after the finished product comes around, you look at it before you publish it, and you say, is that really worth mentioning? Is that worth mentioning? So I don't know how this point at all is going to live on in the future. But to me, this is an example of what I imagine really happened. That last video and the first video he did on this battle, those two videos were so, really all these videos, they're so anticipated now that he found himself in more weeds than he needed to be and tried to outdo the last thing.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
that's not always the best strategy to approach.
I agree.
One of my favorite things about Kendrick's new song, When the Party Die, is that it's 180 degrees away from Not Like Us.
Opposite.
It's 180 degrees away, right?
It's exactly
Not Like Us
opposite.
is one of the biggest songs in history. It's one of the biggest songs ever. The people chose that song. People gravitated toward it. It's an honest and earnest hit. It's a genuine hit. It's not analytics driven. People chose that song. It's one of the biggest songs in history. How do you top that song?
You don't.
The way that song moved, how do you top that song? You don't.
Exactly.
You keep people on their toes and you do
you just that was organic. The way that Not Like Us, I'm sure Kendrick didn't know that it was going to be like that. Like he probably thought it was going to be a good song, but nobody anticipated Not Like Us to be what it is. But the people chose that. So you cannot go back in the booth and try to outdo, be like, okay, how can I make another Not Like Us? You don't try to do it. You just let it organically happen. Right. And I think, and I see where he's going with this. And I said that in my breakdown, it seems like What the Dirt got lost in the sauce. You know, it seemed like he got lost in the sauce. And that's why people are like, man, what's going on with What the Dirt? And it's not just because of Drake. It has nothing to do with Drake. I watched some of his videos on Drake and he has some good things. But that particular video, Family Matters, that's man, you just need to take that video down. Well, I'm sure he's not because that video took a long time. 2 hours and 30. Man, don't ever do that again. Don't ever make a fucking 2 hour and 30 minute. Man, stop it.
the exact opposite. The exact opposite. He went 180 degrees away and said, you know what? The last one started with Mustard on the Beat Ho. This one don't got opportunity isn't there. And from the time when he started talking about how long this video was going to be, and he started talking about things that he had noticed in his research and that were inaccurate or askew, to what the finished product looks like, where he just looks tired of this whole process, we've got him now breaking down Drake cleverly using
the word
37 niggas because he's been a nigga for 37 years and calling it clever.
Yeah.
Without any reference to the fact that that is Kendrick's whole point.
Yeah.
That is the whole point of the distinction that's being created between these two artists.
Exactly.
And it's worse if he's wrong. I now got to look at Matt as the guy that sits down and counts niggas in songs. I got to think about What's the Dirt as being the guy who's sitting around looking at black people from his place in Canada, counting the number of times a black person says nigga in a rap.
Damn.
Woo. I don't know. As soon as he did that, I watched the rest of the video. I fell asleep 3-4 times.
I didn't even make it through. But anyway, we're going to pause it right. Well, nah, we got a minute left. Let's do it.
Because it's not the quality of his arguments didn't put me to sleep. It's the quality of the video. It's too long. He feels like he's under pressure.
Way
he doesn't
too
sound
long.
like he's having a good time. He's throwing shots at critics that he's been interacting with over the past, a few months he's been talking about this. And a lot of his analysis is myopic, and he's presenting it as fact. And to me, this is a better example of what can go wrong when you're doing a breakdown, how you position breakdowns, how you frame arguments in YouTube space, in the video space, in the editorial space. This is a great example of getting lost in your own hubris.
I said it in my live stream, getting lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? Because when you get hit by that viral bug, when you get a video that goes viral, you want to keep going. So you're trying to outdo your last video. So he was thinking, okay, how can I outdo my last video? Well, let me, do this and that. And sometimes, you just got to let that stuff organically happen, right? Don't go away from what got you in the position that you got. But now it just seems like that Family Matters video was bad. But anyway, so my next live stream is going to be What the Dirt. I mean, not live stream, but my next reaction is going to be What the Dirt reacting to the Company Man. And What the Dirt, he was talking crazy in this video. All right, so I'm going to cover this whole thing. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 videos to cover. So I'll see y'all in the next video. Y'all leave a comment down below. Peace.